Welcome back to Unheard Stories, the home of the most jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and revenge. Before we dive into today's story, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? Whether it's a bustling city like New York or a quiet small town, we'd love to hear from you. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us keep bringing you these unbelievable tales. Now let's set the stage. Imagine this. You're married to the love of your life. Everything seems perfect. You've built a dream life together, 2 wonderful kids, a thriving career, and a seemingly unshakable bond. But what if one day you stumbled upon a secret so devastating it tore your world apart? Today's story isn't just about betrayal, it's about secrets that cut so deep they'll leave you questioning everything. Dominic, our protagonist, had it all, or so he thought. But when he uncovered the shocking truth about his wife's ultimate betrayal, he didn't just sit back and take it. Instead, he orchestrated a revenge so precise, so brilliant, that it turned the tables in ways no one could have imagined. Stay tuned as we uncover how Dominic discovered the lies, confronted his pain, and used his brilliance to not only expose the people who betrayed him but to bring their entire world crashing down. Dominic adjusted his tie as he stepped out of his sleek electric car, a bouquet of deep red roses in hand. Tonight was special, his wedding anniversary with Lila, the woman he believed to be his soulmate. For Dominic, life was perfect. At 36, he had a thriving career in medical technology, 2 remarkable teenage twins, and a wife who seemed to light up every corner of their home. From the outside, everything about their life screamed picture perfect. Their house was elegant, perched on the edge of a peaceful neighborhood. Inside, the twins, intelligent and vibrant, were preparing for their high school graduation in just a few months. Anthony, bold and adventurous, had a knack for extreme sports, while the ever-creative Mia excelled in music and art. Dominic adored them both and worked tirelessly to give them the best opportunities in life. Lila, with her radiant charm and impeccable sense of style, balanced her role as a mother and a prominent fertility doctor at one of the most prestigious clinics in the city. Together, they were the embodiment of a modern-day power couple. But that evening, as Dominic entered his house with roses in hand, a strange sense of unease washed over him. The door was unlocked, something Lila was usually meticulous about. He stepped inside, calling out for her. "Lila? Are you home?" From the hallway, he heard muffled voices coming from her office. His heart leaped. Was she on a video call for work? He tiptoed closer, intending to surprise her. But as he neared, the voices grew clearer, and what he heard stopped him in his tracks. "The fertility treatments worked perfectly, and he still has no idea," Lila's voice said, laced with amusement. "You always were good at pulling off impossible schemes," replied a deep, unfamiliar male voice. Dominic froze, his mind racing. What were they talking about? "I used your frozen sperm, and Dominic believes the twins are his," Lila continued, laughing softly. "Poor Dominic. He's been so good to us, so trusting. But this is just the beginning." The bouquet of roses slipped from Dominic's grasp, the sharp thorns pricking his palm as he caught them mid-fall. His breath caught in his throat as the words repeated in his mind like a terrible echo. "The twins are yours. Once the twins graduate, we'll finalize the plan," the man continued. "You'll have everything, all of his assets, and we can finally start over." Dominic's hands shook as he pieced together the horrifying truth. The twins, Anthony and Mia, were not his. Lila had orchestrated this deception, stealing his trust, his love, and his life for her selfish gain. And worse, there was someone else, a man named Peter, who had been part of this betrayal all along. Dominic retreated silently, his mind a whirlwind of emotions, shock, betrayal, fury. But as much as he wanted to storm in and confront her, he knew he needed to be smarter than that. Years of building his career in medical innovation had taught him that the best solutions were precise, calculated, and above all, thorough. He left the house, pretending nothing was amiss. He drove aimlessly, replaying the conversation in his mind. Every moment of the last 8 years began to feel like a lie. He thought back to the fertility treatments they'd undergone after years of trying for children. It was at her clinic where Lila had convinced him to trust the process, assuring him that everything was in his best interest. Dominic had been so consumed with love for her and excitement for their family that he never once questioned her motives. How had he missed the signs? He remembered moments when the twins' personalities seemed so different from his own. Anthony's impulsive daredevil nature and Mia's spontaneous creativity had always seemed like traits from Lila's side of the family. But now, Dominic wondered if those traits came from the stranger whose voice he had just heard. Dominic began observing Lila more closely, his heartbreak fueling his resolve. Each passing day revealed subtle hints he'd never noticed before. She was careful, but cracks in her facade began to show. She often disappeared under the guise of work emergencies, taking calls in hushed tones or leaving for late-night meetings. Dominic followed her once, only to see her meeting the same man he'd overheard on the call. Peter. The realization was crushing. Lila had built their life together on a foundation of lies, weaving a story so intricate that even Dominic, brilliant, meticulous Dominic, had been blinded. But now the blindfold was off. Dominic wasn't just a betrayed husband. He was a man who had spent his life solving problems. And this time the problem wasn't just Lila. It was the entire web of deception she had built around him. As weeks passed, Dominic started piecing together more evidence. His nightly routine of tinkering with his medical research turned into secretive investigations into Lila's life. Using his expertise, he hacked into clinic records, discovering discrepancies in their fertility treatments. The truth was even darker than he expected. Lila's father, a powerful figure in the medical world, had helped orchestrate the use of Peter's sperm during their treatments, ensuring that Dominic would remain unaware of the deceit. Worse yet, Dominic uncovered that Lila had been siphoning off funds from their joint accounts, preparing for the day she and Peter would walk away with everything. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a calculated, heartless plan to strip him of everything he'd built. Through it all, Dominic kept his composure. Lila remained blissfully unaware of his discoveries, believing she had fooled him completely. But behind Dominic's calm exterior, a storm was brewing. He planned every step with the precision of a master strategist. He wouldn't just confront her, he would dismantle everything she had built on his back. The lies, the schemes, the betrayal, it would all come crashing down. He knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming his life, protecting his children, and exposing the truth in a way that left no room for escape. Dominic's world had been shattered, but his resolve had never been stronger. As he set his plans in motion, he realized that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in reacting with rage but in responding with calculated precision. Dominic's calm demeanor masked the storm brewing beneath the surface. For weeks, he had been meticulously uncovering the extent of Lila's betrayal, and what he found only deepened the wound. But Dominic wasn't the kind of man to act impulsively. Every step he took was deliberate, his focus unwavering. He wouldn't just expose Lila and Peter, he would destroy the web of lies they had spun around him. Late at night, Dominic sat in his home office, his desk cluttered with papers, files, and his laptop glowing with incriminating evidence. He had compiled detailed records from the fertility clinic, using his technological expertise to access hidden files. Each piece of data painted a clearer picture of the conspiracy. One document stood out, a medical record showing that Peter Russo had been the biological donor for both Anthony and Mia. Dominic's heart ached as he stared at the undeniable proof. His children, whom he had loved unconditionally, were not his by blood. But they were his in every way that mattered, and he would ensure that the truth wouldn't shatter their world as it had shattered his. He also uncovered financial transactions, secret accounts under Lila's name, where she had funneled large sums of money over the years. Some transfers were linked to Peter's gambling debts, while others went directly to her father, Dr. Gordon Wilkes, a once-respected figure in the medical community who had masterminded the entire scheme. Each discovery fueled Dominic's resolve. This wasn't just a betrayal of love, it was an orchestrated attack on his trust, his family, and his hard-earned success. The deeper Dominic dug, the darker the truth became. Through encrypted emails between Lila and Peter, he discovered that the betrayal had been planned long before he and Lila were married. Peter had been Lila's college sweetheart, but his reckless gambling habits had forced him into financial ruin. Desperate to secure a future for herself, Lila's father devised a plan: marry a wealthy, ambitious man like Dominic and use Peter as a secret donor for children that Dominic would believe were his. The plan had worked flawlessly for years until now. Dominic's mind raced with questions. How could someone he had loved so deeply betray him so completely? And what kind of person used their own children as pawns in such a twisted scheme? Dominic's love for Anthony and Mia was unshakable, but the knowledge of their true parentage added a painful layer to his emotions. They were innocent in all of this, completely unaware of the lies that had shaped their lives. He began to notice little things about them that now seemed connected to Peter. Anthony's reckless love for extreme sports mirrored Peter's impulsive nature, while Mia's artistic flair bore a striking resemblance to Peter's creativity. But those traits didn't change the years Dominic had spent raising them. He had been there for every scraped knee, every school project, every heartache. To Dominic they were his children, not because of DNA but because of love. And no matter what happened, he vowed to protect them from the fallout of their mother's deception. Dominic knew he couldn't confront Lila directly, not yet. Instead he started setting his plan in motion. He hired private investigators to track Peter's movements, uncovering frequent meetings with Lila at upscale hotels under the guise of work trips. Peter had been living off money funneled from Dominic's accounts, gambling away large sums while maintaining his role in the scheme. Dominic also enlisted the help of a whistleblower, Patricia, a former nurse from Lila's clinic. Patricia had long suspected unethical practices at the clinic but had been too afraid to come forward. With Dominic's support, she provided key documents and insider knowledge that further exposed the extent of the corruption. Together, they uncovered a shocking pattern. Lila's clinic had been altering patient records and manipulating fertility treatments for years. Dozens of families had been affected, their lives forever changed without their knowledge. As Dominic gathered more evidence, he knew time was running out. Lila and Peter were growing bolder, discussing their plans more openly in encrypted messages. They spoke of Phase 2, which involved draining Dominic's remaining assets and leaving him with nothing. The twins' upcoming graduation became a critical deadline. Lila and Peter planned to finalize their scheme shortly after the ceremony, under the guise of preparing for the twins' transition to college. Dominic's revenge needed to be ready by then. Dominic decided to confront Dr. Gordon Wilkes, the mastermind behind the deception. He arranged a meeting under the pretense of discussing a new medical project. In the elegant office that once symbolized Gordon's power, Dominic laid out the evidence he had gathered. Medical records, financial transactions, and emails, all pointing to Gordon's involvement in the scheme. Gordon's face paled as he realized the depth of Dominic's knowledge. "You don't understand," he stammered. "This was about protecting my daughter's future. You've had everything, success, wealth, influence. She deserved her share." "Her share?" Dominic's voice was cold and measured. "She deserved my love, my trust, and my loyalty. But instead she chose to destroy all of it. And now you'll all face the consequences." Before leaving, Dominic delivered a chilling warning. "You thought I was a pawn in your game. You're about to find out what happens when the pawn becomes the player." Dominic continued to play the part of the loving husband and father, hiding his growing rage behind a carefully constructed mask. Lila remained oblivious, assuming Dominic was still the devoted man she had manipulated for years. But behind the scenes, Dominic's plan was reaching its final stages. Using his expertise in AI and medical fraud detection, he developed a powerful system to expose corruption at Lila's clinic. He connected the dots between her actions, her father's influence, and Peter's involvement, creating an airtight case that would leave them no room for escape. The night before the twins' graduation, Dominic shared a quiet dinner with Anthony and Mia. He cherished the moments of laughter and love, knowing they might be the last before their lives were forever changed. As he kissed them goodnight, Dominic whispered to himself, "This isn't their fault. They deserve the truth, but they also deserve to keep their future intact." Meanwhile, Lila received a text from Peter. "Almost there. One more day and we're free." She smiled to herself, completely unaware that the ground beneath her carefully constructed life was about to collapse. Dominic had all the pieces in place. The evidence was undeniable, the witnesses were ready, and the stage was set. Tomorrow, at the twins' graduation, he would unveil the truth in a way that no one, not Lila, not Peter, not even Gordon, would ever forget. The day of the twins' graduation dawned bright and clear, but beneath the surface of what appeared to be a joyful occasion, Dominic's plan was about to come to fruition. For weeks, he had worked tirelessly to uncover every layer of deceit, and now, with all the evidence secured, the moment of reckoning was finally here. The auditorium buzzed with excitement as families gathered to celebrate their children's achievements. Dominic sat in the front row, his face a mask of paternal pride. On one side sat Lila, radiant in a designer dress, her excitement for the day masking her underlying schemes. On the other side was Dr. Gordon Wilkes, stoic as ever, occasionally leaning over to whisper something to Lila that made her smile conspiratorially. In the row behind them, Peter Russo sat among family friends, his presence explained as a close colleague of Gordon's. Dominic had noted his arrival with quiet satisfaction. The final player in this twisted game had taken his place on the board. As the ceremony began, the principal took the stage, his voice filled with pride. "Today we celebrate not just academic achievements but the bright futures of these remarkable young individuals. And now, please join me in welcoming our valedictorian Mia. Mia stepped up to the podium, her dark eyes scanning the crowd. Her speech was poised and eloquent, a reflection of her bright personality and creative spirit. She spoke about integrity, the importance of truth, and building a future based on trust. Each word stung Dominic. He wondered how Mia would react when she learned that everything she believed about her family was a carefully constructed lie. After the ceremony, families gathered in clusters, exchanging hugs and taking photos. Dominic stood with the twins, smiling warmly as he handed them two beautifully wrapped boxes. "I have something special for both of you," he said. Anthony grinned, shaking the box. "If this isn't car keys, Dad, I'm going to be disappointed." Mia laughed, carefully unwrapping hers. "You always have a flair for surprises." Dominic's voice softened. "This gift is the truth. It's everything you deserve to know about who you are." The twins exchanged puzzled glances before opening the boxes. Inside were USB drives labeled with their names, along with handwritten letters from Dominic. "Read it when you're ready," Dominic said, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. Before the twins could ask more questions, Dominic turned to Lila, his eyes cold and unyielding. "I need to step out for a moment. Business call. I'll be right back." Dominic stepped outside the venue, his heart pounding as he prepared for the chaos he knew was about to erupt. From the corner of his eye, he saw Mia plug the USB drive into her laptop. It didn't take long. "What is this?" Mia's voice cut through the celebratory chatter like a blade. Anthony's shout followed. "This can't be real. Tell me this isn't real." Dominic turned back toward the auditorium just as the entire gathering descended into chaos. The twins stood frozen, staring at the evidence displayed on the screen. DNA test results, medical records, financial transactions, and photos of Lila with Peter. The truth was laid bare. Peter Russo was their biological father, and their mother had orchestrated everything, using them as pawns in an elaborate scheme to steal from Dominic. Lila's face turned ashen as she rushed to the twins. "This isn't what it looks like. I can explain." "Explain what, Mom?" Anthony's voice cracked with rage. "That you lied to us? That you used us?" Mia, usually calm and composed, was shaking. "You let me believe he was my father. All these years, everything was a lie." Gordon tried to step in, his voice authoritative. "Enough. Let's handle this privately." But Dominic wasn't going to let them escape that easily. "No, Gordon," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "They deserve to know the truth. The whole truth." Dominic stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "For years, I believed I was part of a happy family. I believed my wife loved me, that my children were mine. But the truth is, I was nothing more than a pawn in their plan to steal everything from me." He turned to the twins, his voice softening. "But you, Anthony and Mia, are my children. Not because of biology but because of love. And I will always love you no matter what." Peter, emboldened by the unfolding drama, stepped forward with a smug grin. "Oh, come on, Dominic. You can't blame Lila for choosing someone like me. We have history. You were just convenient." Dominic's composure didn't falter. He pulled a remote from his pocket, pressing a button to display a series of documents on the screen behind him. "These," Dominic said, "are the financial records tying Peter Russo to gambling operations and offshore accounts. These are emails proving that Dr. Gordon Wilkes orchestrated the fraud at Lila's clinic, affecting not just me but dozens of other families. And this," he pointed to another document. "This is the court order freezing all of your accounts and assets. Effective immediately." Peter's smug grin vanished. Gordon's face turned beet red as he realized the magnitude of what was happening. The scene was pure chaos. Guests whispered furiously, phones buzzed with the news spreading like wildfire, and Lila desperately tried to contain the damage. "Dominic, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "We can fix this. For the twins, for us." But Dominic shook his head. "You didn't just betray me, Lila. You betrayed them. You built a life on lies, and now those lies are coming down." Federal investigators, who had been quietly waiting outside, entered the venue. They approached Gordon and Peter, presenting arrest warrants. Peter tried to resist, but the agents quickly subdued him. As Gordon was led away, he glared at Dominic. "You think you've won? This isn't over." Dominic's expression remained cold. "Oh, it's over. For all of you." After the chaos subsided, Dominic found Anthony and Mia sitting together, their faces a mix of anger, hurt, and confusion. "I'm so sorry you had to find out this way," Dominic said, his voice heavy with emotion. "But you deserve to know the truth." Mia looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. You're still my dad. You always will be. Anthony nodded, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. You raised us. That's all that matters. Dominic felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Despite everything, his bond with the twins remained unbroken. In the days that followed, Dominic worked tirelessly to ensure that the clinic's victims received justice. The evidence he had gathered was handed over to federal prosecutors, leading to the clinic's closure and the revocation of Lila's medical license. Lila, stripped of her career and reputation, was left to face the consequences of her actions. Peter's gambling connections and fraudulent activities earned him a lengthy prison sentence, while Gordon's empire crumbled under the weight of his crimes. Dominic, however, wasn't interested in revenge for revenge's sake. He turned his focus toward building something meaningful from the ruins of his marriage, a foundation dedicated to exposing corruption and ensuring no one else suffered the way he had. The web of lies had been exposed, and Dominic's life would never be the same. But through the pain and betrayal, he found strength, purpose, and a renewed commitment to the people who truly mattered. Dominic Hobbs had delivered his masterstroke. The web of lies spun by Lila, Peter, and Gordon had unraveled before their eyes, leaving them exposed, humiliated, and powerless. But Dominic's plan wasn't just about exposing their betrayal, it was about ensuring that the consequences were thorough and inescapable. In the days following the graduation ceremony, the fallout reverberated through their lives like an earthquake. Lila's once pristine reputation as a leading fertility doctor was obliterated. Her clinic was raided by federal investigators, and Dominic's evidence proved to be the linchpin of their case. Dozens of former patients who had suffered from the clinic's unethical practices came forward with their own testimonies. Lila's medical license was suspended indefinitely, and lawsuits began piling up against her and the clinic. At home, she faced a new kind of isolation. The twins, unable to forgive her for the lies, refused to speak to her. The house, once filled with laughter and love, now felt cold and empty. Lila, once a picture of confidence and control, was left to confront the ruins of the life she had built on deceit. Peter Russo's downfall was swift and devastating. Arrested on charges of fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering, Peter found himself at the mercy of a legal system he could no longer manipulate. Dominic's investigators had uncovered decades of illicit activities, including ties to underground gambling rings and offshore accounts. Every financial record, email, and transaction was meticulously documented and handed over to authorities. In court, Peter's smug demeanor crumbled as the weight of the evidence became undeniable. Sentenced to 20 years in prison without the possibility of parole, he was left to face the consequences of his greed and arrogance. Dr. Gordon Wilkes, once a titan of the medical world, watched his empire crumble around him. His name, once synonymous with innovation and excellence, became a byword for corruption. The federal investigation revealed not only his involvement in Lila's scheme but also decades of unethical practices at his clinic. Gordon had falsified records, manipulated treatments, and used his influence to cover up the truth. The medical board stripped him of all honors, and the prestigious hospital wing that once bore his name was renamed after Dominic's newly established foundation. Confined to house arrest as he awaited trial, Gordon spent his days watching the legacy he had worked so hard to build reduced to ashes. While Lila, Peter, and Gordon faced their well-deserved punishments, Dominic emerged from the chaos stronger than ever. His groundbreaking AI system, originally designed to detect medical fraud, became the cornerstone of a new company, MedAI Solutions. Partnering with legal and ethical experts, Dominic used his technology to expose corruption and protect victims of medical malpractice. The company quickly gained national recognition, and its success allowed Dominic to channel his pain into purpose. Through MedAI Solutions, he ensured that no one else would fall victim to the kind of betrayal he had endured. Anthony and Mia, though shaken by the revelations, began to forge their own paths. With Dominic's unwavering support, they found strength in the truth and used it as a foundation for their futures. Anthony, always adventurous, pursued a degree in sports science, determined to make a difference in the world of athletic performance and safety. Mia, inspired by Dominic's resilience, studied law with a focus on medical ethics, hoping to fight for justice and accountability. Their relationship with Dominic deepened, built on trust and love. The bond they shared was stronger than ever, proving that family wasn't just about biology, it was about choice and commitment. Lila's world shrank to the confines of a modest apartment, far removed from the luxury she once enjoyed. Without her career, her social connections, or her family, she was forced to confront the magnitude of her actions. The few attempts she made to reach out to the twins were met with silence. Anthony refused to see her, while Mia sent a single message: "You broke our family. I hope you find peace, but we're done." Even Peter, once her closest ally, had turned his back on her. From his prison cell, he blamed her for their downfall, refusing to take any responsibility for his role in the betrayal. With MedAI Solutions thriving, Dominic turned his attention to a new project: the Hobbs Foundation for Medical Ethics. The foundation provided support to victims of medical fraud, offering legal aid, counseling, and financial assistance. The foundation quickly became a beacon of hope for those who had been wronged, and Dominic's work earned him widespread recognition. But for Dominic, the real reward was knowing that his pain had been transformed into something meaningful. As the dust settled, Dominic allowed himself to rebuild his personal life. Though cautious at first, he eventually found companionship in Bethany Drew, a brilliant entrepreneur who shared his passion for justice. Their relationship grew slowly, built on mutual respect and understanding. Bethany became not only a partner in Dominic's personal life but also a key figure in the success of MedAI Solutions. Together they built a life filled with purpose and love. 15 years later, Dominic stood at the podium of the Hobbs Foundation's annual gala, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Anthony and Mia, now successful in their own careers, stood by his side, their achievements a testament to Dominic's unwavering support. Bethany, now his wife, smiled proudly as Dominic addressed the audience. "Tonight, we celebrate not just the success of this foundation but the resilience of the human spirit. From betrayal and pain, we have built something extraordinary. Together, we are ensuring that justice and truth prevail in the medical world and beyond." The audience erupted into applause, but for Dominic, the real victory was the peace he felt within himself. Far away from the glamorous gala, Lila sat alone in a small cafe, reading about the success of the Hobbs Foundation. Her face was lined with the weight of years and regret. She had lost everything: her career, her family, and the life she had built. For Lila, there was no redemption. Her actions had cost her everything, and the knowledge of what she had lost haunted her every day. Legacy of justice. Dominic's revenge had transcended personal vindication. He had created a legacy of accountability and ethics, ensuring that others would never suffer as he had. For Anthony and Mia, their father's journey was a source of inspiration. They carried his values forward, determined to make a difference in the world. As the gala came to an end, Dominic watched his family, his real family, gather around him. He had lost so much, but in the process he had found something far more valuable: truth, justice, and love. 15 years after the devastating revelations that shattered Dominic Hobbs's life, the world he rebuilt stood as a monument to resilience, truth, and justice. The pain of betrayal had been transformed into a driving force that not only redefined his life but also reshaped an entire industry. Now in his early 50s, Dominic stood in the sprawling headquarters of MedAI Solutions, the company he had built from the wreckage of his personal life. The building, a gleaming testament to innovation, overlooked the Silicon Valley skyline. He adjusted the cuffs of his tailored suit as he reviewed the quarterly report. It was more than numbers and projections. It was a reflection of the impact his company had on the world. MedAI Solutions had not only become a leader in medical technology but also a watchdog for corruption, exposing fraud and protecting victims worldwide. The Hobbs Foundation for Medical Ethics had also grown exponentially, supporting thousands of families affected by unethical practices in the medical field. Its initiatives range from funding legal battles for victims to lobbying for stronger regulatory measures. Dominic's daughter, Mia, now an accomplished lawyer specializing in medical ethics, played a key role in the foundation's success. She was set to deliver the keynote address at the upcoming annual summit, a moment of immense pride for Dominic. Anthony, Dominic's son, had taken a different path but remained equally impactful. As a leading researcher in genetic privacy rights, Anthony worked closely with MedAI Solutions, ensuring their innovations respected patient confidentiality. Mia, now married to a fellow lawyer, had 2 young children, a boy and a girl, who adored their grandfather. Dominic often marveled at her strength and grace, traits she had honed through the trials of their shared past. Anthony, in a loving marriage with his husband, was expecting their first child through surrogacy. Dominic beamed with pride whenever Anthony spoke about the importance of creating a world where truth and ethics were the foundation of medical practices. Despite the pain of discovering their true parentage years ago, the twins had chosen to embrace the father who had raised them. To them, Dominic's love and unwavering support were what defined a parent, not the blood that ran through their veins. Across the country, in a modest apartment in a small town, Lila Wilkes lived a life far removed from the luxury and prestige she once enjoyed. Her days were quiet, filled with mundane routines and the bitter taste of regret. The woman who had once commanded attention and respect in Boston's elite circles was now an afterthought, her name synonymous with scandal and betrayal. Occasionally she would see news articles about Dominic's successes or the achievements of Anthony and Mia. Each headline was a painful reminder of what she had lost. The few attempts she made to reconnect with her children were met with polite but firm rejection. For Lila, the weight of her choices was an unending punishment. She had traded love for ambition, and in the end she was left with nothing. In a maximum security prison, Peter Russo sat in his cell, a shadow of the man he once was. His arrogance had long since been stripped away, replaced by the grim reality of his circumstances. Peter's gambling debts, once fabricated for the sake of Lila's plan, had become real, leading to ties with organized crime that Dominic's investigators had uncovered. His 20-year sentence ensured that he would spend most of his remaining life behind bars. The man who had once mocked Dominic's trust now sat alone, haunted by the knowledge that his own greed and arrogance had sealed his fate. Dr. Gordon Wilkes, once a towering figure in the medical world, had spent his final years under house arrest. Stripped of his titles, his assets, and his reputation, he became a pariah in the community he once dominated. When he passed away, there were no grand tributes or memorials. His legacy had been reduced to a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition and corruption. One evening, after a long day of meetings and preparations for the Foundation's gala, Dominic sat alone in his office. On the wall hung a framed photo of Anthony and Mia, taken shortly after their graduation. Their smiles were genuine, their eyes full of hope, a reminder of why he had fought so hard to protect them. Dominic allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. The journey had been painful, but it had also been transformative. The betrayal that once threatened to destroy him had instead become the catalyst for a life of purpose. The Hobbs Foundation's annual gala was a grand affair, held in a stunning venue overlooking the Boston skyline. Guests from around the world gathered to celebrate the Foundation's achievements and support its mission. As the evening unfolded, Dominic took the stage to deliver his opening remarks. The room fell silent as he spoke. 15 years ago, I faced a betrayal that shook me to my core, he began. But from that pain came a purpose, an opportunity to ensure that no one else would endure what I did. Today, the Hobbs Foundation and MedAI Solutions stand as beacons of hope and accountability, proof that we can turn even the darkest moments into something meaningful. He gestured toward Mia and Anthony seated at the front. And none of this would have been possible without my children. Their strength and determination inspire me every day. They remind me that love and truth are the foundations of a life worth living. The crowd erupted into applause as Dominic stepped back, allowing Mia to take the stage for her keynote speech. Her words were powerful and heartfelt, a testament to the values she had learned from her father. Later that night, as the gala wound down, Dominic found himself surrounded by his family. Mia's children clung to his arms, begging for stories, while Anthony shared updates about his latest research. Bethany stood by his side, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. For Dominic, this was the true victory. It wasn't about the wealth he had rebuilt or the recognition he had earned. It was about the family he had fought to protect and the legacy they were creating together. As Dominic looked around the room, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The betrayal that once defined his life was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the impact of his work and the love of his family. Through MedAI Solutions and the Hobbs Foundation, Dominic had ensured that truth and justice would prevail, not just for himself but for countless others. And as his grandchildren ran to him, their laughter filling the room, he knew that the future they inherited would be built on the values he had fought so hard to uphold. As the story comes to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've uncovered. Dominic didn't just survive betrayal. He turned his pain into power, creating a legacy of truth, justice, and love that outshined the lies meant to destroy him. What would you do if you were in Dominic's shoes? Would you seek revenge, rebuild your life, or walk away from it all? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. And if you found this story gripping, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Unheard Stories for more unbelievable tales like this one. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Before you go, here's a little teaser. Next time we'll dive into the story of a man who discovered a 10-year conspiracy on his wedding day, and his shocking response will leave you speechless. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and always seek the truth.